Hello everybody, welcome back to the table. Today we're taking a look at this Benchmade Barrage. I picked it up used for $40, so pretty good deal for a knife in not terrible condition. The only flaw we can see really on here is that the blade does have some damage to the tip. So we can see some Sharpie is on there. The tip is kind of chipped and blunted. So I'm going to see if I can fix that. But the rest of the knife is in pretty good cosmetic condition. It's a little dirty, and so we'll clean the insides too, but it really doesn't need that as much as it just needs the tip to be cleaned. So I have some acetone right here, and I'm just going to dip the tip of the blade in there and just let the Sharpie come off, and we're going to see what the finish looks like underneath it. So the acetone should make pretty quick work of the Sharpie, so I'm just going to dip it in here. Might leave it for a few minutes and see what comes off. But I mean, even doing this, you can see the acetone is almost instantly purple from the Sharpie color. So just a few quick swipes with the brush and it's nice and clean. So that Sharpie came right off, and the blade overall does not look too bad without the Sharpie on there. I think maybe that was just bothering the previous owner. So a few quick swipes with the plastic brush, and it's good to go. So I did decide to leave it in for a couple of minutes while the camera wasn't running, just in case, you know, there was something that I didn't see that needed to come off. But in the end, it looks pretty darn good, even without the Sharpie. So just wipe that off. And as you can see, there is some honest edge wear on the tip, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, this knife is a used knife. It's had some service to it. So take a look at that there, and we are just going to fix up this edge. I did debate sending this into the Benchmade's LifeSharp program because they would fix the knife for you without any problem, but I know I could do it myself. And so since I'm going to have to remove a little bit of material here, I'm going to use a grinder. But first off, I'm going to remove the lanyard. I'm not really a fan of lanyards, and this one did come with this from the previous owner. So we'll take that off, which we'll need to take it off anyway because we're going to disassemble it in a little bit. But I'm going to use the Worksharp Ken Onion Edition. This is the blade grinder attachment. And I'm using this for the first initial pass because I'm going to have to take off some material to get that blade back in working order, just to get it, you know, shaped correctly. And so the tip of the blade does get pretty hot when you're using powered machinery, especially because at the tip it's very thin. The metal's very thin there. And so after these first couple of passes, I realized how hot it was getting. So I decided to just dip the knife in water after every couple of passes, keep it cool. And didn't really take too long at all. So even after these first initial runs on the machine, we can see the tip, the edge, is actually in pretty good shape already. So you can take a look at it right there. Boom, all that edge damage gone. And so we're back at a drop point. And this was with a really coarse belt because I needed to remove material. So we are going to finish sharpening this knife on the Worksharp, what is it called? The Precision Adjust. So that's what this is right here. And so this gives you a little bit more control over sharpening the knife. So this is just kind of in fast forward, as we can see going through the grits on the stones here. So I sharpened it at about a 22-degree edge angle. Just going through all the different grits on the stones. Edge came out really nice. So super sharp, no issues. And that plain edge part of the blade, it just slides through paper. So pretty much back in working order, no problems. The serrations are still pretty dull though. I have yet to find a perfect 100% solution for sharpening serrations. I've tried a lot of systems, a lot of tools. The best thing I've had so far is I have this little tool from Smith's, very inexpensive, but it's just a little diamond rod that kind of tapers outward. And so you can use this just on the serrations to kind of work in there and try and put a burr on the other side of the blade. And once you remove the burr, they're semi-sharp. You know, I don't think I'll ever get serrations as sharp as they come from the factory. But that's really the only downside with these dual edge knives. But we are going to take off the pocket clip and take off these scales. Really, this is optional. I know the knife as it is right now, perfectly functional, perfectly usable, but I did want to see if there was going to be any rust or anything excessive under these scales that you can't really tell. And the beauty about the Barrage right here is you can take off these scales without messing with the pivot. It's just a couple of screws that hold them on. And they are dusty, they're dirty a little bit, so we'll clean those out too. But once these scales pop off, you can see the metal frame underneath. And as I thought, there's a little bit of surface rust on there. So you can see that. So we are going to brush that off and clean them up. So with an axis lock knife, I generally don't fully disassemble them, you know, pivot and all. They're just kind of a pain in the butt to get back together. And more so with this one because this is an assisted axis lock. So there's a coil spring in there, similar to what an auto knife has. So just moving the other side, we'll see how bad the rust is on this side. But I'm pretty confident we're going to be able to get this knife nice and clean, as you can see. And so since I have the acetone on the table, I'm just going to kind of put a little bit on the steel here and use that to kind of scrub down the knife. Could have used a lot of other different chemicals or things that are less caustic than the acetone, but it's here and it works. So just a little bit of scrubbing with acetone on the steel, and as you can see, the metal is getting nice and clean. Spilled a little bit too much. But yeah, so the inside of this knife is now nice and shiny, no issues. And so while it's apart, you know, scrubbing it out, I'm just gonna use a canned air, spray out any gunk and debris on the inside, and it was fairly clean, not too dirty. And we can just put the scales right back on. So very happy with the disassembly of this knife. No issues, no stripped screws. Again, easy to take apart and put back together due to the design. And for 40 bucks, getting a US made Benchmade knife used, that's a screaming deal. I mean, that's, in my opinion, at least. You know, I did own a Benchmade Barrage some years ago, and I stupidly sold it. So I really have been keeping an eye out for one. And so I'm glad to get this one back. And while we're doing this, I'll put a few drops of lube in the pivot. This is just some KPL. Again, does it really need it? No, but I did notice after putting in the lube, the action is a lot smoother to work, less grindy feeling, more smooth feeling. So it can't hurt. So very nice. And we're just going to put on the pocket clip. And so it came with this original split arrow pocket clip, and that's original to the knife, I'm sure. Not really a fan of these clips from Benchmade, so I do have another one here. It's a Benchmade, it's a used clip. But it says Benchmade USA on there, which I think is fully appropriate for a knife that is made here in the US. So I'm just going to swap out the clips because I'm not a fan of the split arrow type clip. If you had a deep carry clip, you could use that too. But I think this one matches the Barrage pretty well, especially it's a used clip, it's a used knife. All the wear and tear does kind of match. So that just went on nice and easy. But yeah, end result, everything looks nice. Clip is on there, nice and clean. Safety still works. Great action, sharp blade. If you have any questions about the process, feel free to drop a comment below. Hope you all enjoyed watching. Have a nice day, everyone. See ya.